yesterday, we asked you to think a little bit, and Brian, was he just great, our futurist? A lot of you told me that what stuck with you was when he asked us to think about what we are for and what we're against. Did that make you think? I know that we all got into this work to solve problems. And most of you come to us when you want to learn stuff. What we see is amazing work and plenty of challenges. But what I wanted to share with you is a little bit of information about what we see at the center about what's going on with you. We do 3 surveys a year. I'm sure a lot of you participate in them, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. 2 that really provide a sector snapshot. 1 that is about what's happening with compensation and benefits and those sort of management trends. So I thought I would share with you a little bit about what we have seen. So, in spite of the recession, we're still growing. Over the last 10 years, in fact, we've grown about 25%, and there hasn't been shrinkage. I know we're talking yesterday about mergers and alliances and partnerships and all that stuff, but in fact, more people are getting into the sector and more organizations are born every day. We were trying to remind you yesterday, and I can't say this enough, how do you think we fare compared to the entertainment industry as an industry? Bigger or smaller? Smaller or bigger? Bigger? LA County number of people working. We are, in fact. Now here's the thing you should be proud of. Not only are we a bigger employer, we also keep the money here in the market, and the money gets turned around to make the community better. Not that we're against entertainment, that's all good. But I just want you to remember that we need to have a seat at the table as well and take our work seriously as a real workforce. So we know you guys every day come to us asking about these issues. Do these all look familiar? Is this the stuff that keeps you up at night? And we're all supposed to be experts in all this, right? Well, it turns out we really can't be, which really was what yesterday was about. That, you know, before you beat yourself up for not being perfect in every way, that there are lots and lots and lots of resources around to partner. The capacity builders you can meet outside and around our space are certainly here to help you with some of that management stuff. But I think what you tell us every day is that there are brilliant peers that understand what you do, that may have tried it before, may be willing to share what they've learned, and that those are amazing resources for you as well. So what we've seen this past year, which was a bit surprising because the headlines are telling us that the recession is over, nonprofits are telling us no, it's not. That in fact, once again this year, need outpaces our supply. What we've also seen is anybody feeling like money is coming any easier? You heard yesterday from our fabulous friends on the corporate side the realities of what they're dealing with. I was hoping that it was fun. I was hoping that it was a bit sobering. There isn't really a turning back. Government dollars are tricky. Individuals are asking us to really make the sale, telling us why an investment in our organization is a good one. Really, what we heard at our economic summit in December is that the world really came out of the recession we're in this sort of post-traumatic stress phase, that we don't trust that it's going to get better, that we should count on it, and everybody's much more careful about the way they spend their money. One of the things that we learned from the compensation and benefits survey is that within that sort of cautious optimism that maybe the recession's over, that maybe this year will be better than last, that it might be time to start to restore some of those positions that we cut. So about 47% are saying that they're thinking about hiring this year. The surprising thing for us was that 36% they're having trouble finding the people they need. Somebody was just telling me about health benefits, and I thought I'll start with something positive. What we're hearing is that there may be raises in our futures this year. The average looks like about 3%. The difference is it's not so much cost of living as it is performance-based. That it really is about setting some expectations and then making those things happen. Raises are not for everybody. Organizations are definitely saying there's less increase this year than last year. The health insurance trajectory in terms of covering costs, we're definitely seeing that fewer organizations this year are funding 100%. That number just continues to decline. The piece that I would like to call out, because for those of us that are older, we kind of take it for granted that eventually we will retire and maybe go on to do something else that doesn't require all those skills we just laid out. For the younger people, they really aren't getting into the retirement planning game at all. And if it's a no-cost opportunity for you to really help your staff stay in the sector. They leave us when they have to go find better benefits as they get mortgages and kids and all those things. So some of you may have read that there was going to be this tsunami of nonprofit leaders leaving, retiring, baby boomers were moving on. That's not what we've seen. What we heard 5 years ago was definitely a tsunami. What we've seen is a steady trickle. We know during the recession, really when, sort of 2010, 2012, a lot of us just felt this wasn't the time. The organization was vulnerable, our families were vulnerable, not now. What you told us in 2012 is maybe 2 years. What we saw in 2013 was about 13% said, in fact, I'm out of here. What does make me laugh, and we'll see if it works, is that what you all said was, but 2015, I'm really going to go. So we'll see. Hopefully, for all of you, and you'll see, we talked a little bit yesterday during the bridge span piece, and then we'll talk again at lunchtime today with some people that have been really thinking about this. It's our view at the center that stuff happens. The obvious is the Clippers are going through a leadership change. Some things are unexpected, but we sort of prefer that your organization has a plan B, that things do happen. And people, my board asked me, what happens if you get hit by a bus? We're hoping I don't, but in case I do you have a plan? That was one of those awkward moments when you go, are they thinking I should go? Anyway, and I have a board member here, Trevor, you'll have to tell me what really went on in that executive session. Anyway, talking about leadership transition, one of the things that we know is that it's an awkward conversation. The other thing that we definitely know is that it needs to happen, that change is inevitable. Either we'll get old and tired, or something happens, or something happens. What we see, though, is very few organizations taking this seriously. One of the folks, Stuart Quo, who we love, one of the things that he's going to tell you a little bit about at lunchtime is how he came to decide to plan for his exit, even though his exit is way far away, and how that really transformed the people on his staff. So one of our researchers on the consultant side said, I'm sort of getting bored with this survey because all we ask is what's going wrong. And she said, what if we find out what's going right? And then let's tell everybody what's going right and see if they can copy. So what we asked is, what's going right, and then what are you planning to do for next year? One of the things that we saw over the last 18 months was, if you chose to have a more diversified funding portfolio, if you had, for example, relied on government and started getting nervous that maybe that might be vulnerable, that if they went back to previous donors, if they sometimes had to hire different people to help them raise money, write grants, all of that, those were the organizations that were telling us that they came through the recession doing fine. The other thing that they did, and this isn't about bling, this is about context. The idea of marketing and communications and talking about what difference you make. Not just we're for justice and the American way, but that we make a difference. That doesn't mean you have to be a great evaluator, but you do have to state the problem. And you do have to create a message about why your solution is making a difference. The thing that we all know is that our mailboxes are full of things that come every day telling us we should go to an event, we should write a check, we should support, from kitties to, not that I'm anti-cats, just Rachel's in the back waving at me, and she's a cat person, I'm a dog person. Anyway, but the idea that we have to really think about the story that we tell, and we can't take it for granted that, you know, everybody believes that children should be safe, that the environment should be not a toxic wasteland, that we've got to make the sale. And I told you a minute ago that following that recession, that post-traumatic stress issue, what it means is what those organizations told us, when we told the story with some context, they came back. Some people that hadn't given for a while came back. And that it meant that net, it was a gain. The other thing that we found at the center is that when executive directors, and we tried to hit on this yesterday, when executive directors said to the board, I need your brain. I need you to bring your A game. Not just to hang out with friends and care about an issue, and not just your checkbook. I need you to think with me as a thought partner about where we're going and what we're trying to do. The good news for board members was suddenly, even if they think you're wonderful and competent and can do it all, they felt like they were part of it, and they got engaged. And every single day, we hear from people that tell me, at least, you know, I wish I could get more out of my board. What we heard with those EDs that said, come on, you guys, you care about this mission, you know about us, what can we do that can make a difference? Either with our business model, with our partnerships, or where we want to really make a dent in some problem in the community. Boards got engaged. They felt like they mattered and they had a job, which makes it more fun for everybody. So we talked a little bit, I think Fred mentioned yesterday, this notion of the Nonprofit Sustainability Initiative, and I think John touted the notion that there were some mergers. That is one strategy. They often don't work. The data is kind of mixed. Patty Ertl can certainly talk about that. But what it does imply is, and what we heard from a lot of folks, is that when you were making decisions about programs that you had to cut, or ways to serve the community in spite of all the math that we talked about a minute ago, that one of the things that was really great is talking to others around the community, which is why we've been really pushing you to talk to each other. My favorite example at one event, I was sitting back there with a group, waiting for the event to start, and these three women, one group was telling me that they had a pool, another group said they had seniors, and another group had a bus. Now imagine the conversation. They solved a problem, and it didn't cost any money, and they didn't have to go to funders to figure it out. But those sorts of ideas, to me, are strategic alliances, and they're mission-driven, and they're organic. They're solving a problem that you've identified with people that get it. The idea of developing new programs is something that you're telling us some stuff is coming back, some things that you let go, or some things that, in some cases, kind of that social enterprise idea or that idea of talking to others about what you know. Opportunities, kind of that, if you think about what you have to sell, ways to make money, fee for service. One thing that you know, I think, that's starting to bubble even in small ways, but at least the idea that some of us need to start to remember that it would be a good idea to build a reserve. That if you can start to put away a little money, I know for foundations that are looking at grant proposals, one of the things that they care a lot about at this point is, and this is my favorite thing, if you want to write this down, give and get, not give or get. Foundations do expect, and we should expect, that if a board member wants to go raise money for others, they ought to part with some cash of their own and support the cause. But also that it's time to find a little cash to put aside just as a good business practice.